Alrighty. I thought I'd do something interesting, and I thought I'd talk about the way everything's hooked up in this setup. So, what I'm going to do, that's my computer, is I'm just going to talk about. It's generally going to be the hookup and why do I have it hooked up that way. Even though this is a room, this is basically a bonus room, but I have a lot of gear in here. So how I'm going to start is, this is probably, in some eyes, the tiniest control room ever. Reason being because it's a house. Technically it's because it is a house. So I just don't have the live room space. I could make it a live room space, the whole house, but because it's a house, I'm not doing that. So I'm just going to generally talk about how everything's hooked up. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here. Because I'm a keyboard player, this is my keyboard section. So I have a old 01V digital mixer here as my monitor reference. I use these speakers, these rolling cubes, and all my keyboards in this section here, all these keyboards are plugged into here, as well as I got them also plugged into this rolling mixer. It's a 16 channel mixer, and the output of this digital mixer, the two outs, are coming into, I have just a little patch bay on the floor there. I'm going to buy 3 or 4 more of those. But generally, right now, I only have the two outputs from this mixer here. The outputs of that mixer is plugged into channels 7 and 8 of this patch bay panel here. This is a 16 channel XLR patch bay, because you can get the 1/4 inch, or what we call TRSs, but I have the XLR one. And so I also have a few other things hooked up, like a couple of microphone connections and stuff like that. Like my main microphone for recording is in channel 1. So I have that one here. And the end of it would naturally was going to my, but I also have another cable right there hanging right here. That would plug into my microphone, but because I'm using a power supply, because I'm using a microphone, because I have a microphone that is a tube microphone, the connector for that is going into this box right here. And that box is coming out of output into channel 3 there, which is coming here. Well, all these outputs, all the outputs for the back of that panel are coming in to here of the patch bay. Take a look, just look at this patch bay and see all the cabling. See all the cables right that I got on the floor. And in most studio environments, all these cables would be hidden, usually under the floor or in the wall or whatever the case. But because it's a house, I'm not tearing up the floor. And then, of course, behind all that gear is nothing but cables going to all the racks, including to those tall racks over there. All the inputs and output are coming to this patch bay setup. So this top row, I'll talk about the patch bay right generally. So normally in a live room setting, in the live room would be a panel like that in a drum booth vocal booth, piano booth, and they call them tie lines. But it's a panel that would run from that panel to the patch bay in the control room. So now the patch bay you'll be able to input all inputs. So what's going on is right now I only got 8 inputs right now. So all eight inputs right here, all 8 inputs are coming to the patch bay, so I can patch in like as if it's coming from my live room. That's how it would be done in a commercial studio. The returns, the inputs that go into the console will come out at the bottom of that same patch bay right here. Will come out, and these are going into channels 25 right here, 25 through 32. That's coming from here. So that's how it's connected. So next is I have skipping this row on the patch bay, because that's why the patch bay is the central point for all recording studios, is the patch bay. This next row would be all outputs that would come from my audio interface. They would come out of my audio interface. So this top row of cables all the way through 24 is coming out of my audio interfaces. The back of it's right here. You can barely see it. And then the bottom row of that same the bottom row of the same patch bay are coming into channels 1 through 24 here. 1 through 24. So those are the outputs coming from that patch bay, which would be coming from the output through the patch bay from my interface. The third row, let me come over here. So this third row of patch bay will be all the inputs that would go into my interface. Now my interface, let me turn it on. You can see here the Antelope Orion. So the inputs that record into my interface is on here, on this third. So I can plug directly in here into the interface to record into my interface. And then the outputs from my interface is on this row right here, which is then returning into the console. Now some people would say, why do you have it that way? Why don't you just record directly from the console? Well, I do. I'll show you the back of that patch bay. This is my input of the patch bay. Or I'm sorry, the input of my interface. Well, the direct outs, my direct out cables right here for the direct out, because I record on 25 through 38. The direct outs, that cable is here. So it's the input to go directly, that's connected out of the console, which is the top. When it comes to patch bays, you always think out of. And the bottom means in, which is the outs on top, ends. So out of the console, and the bottom row is into the interface. Same thing. Out, like the second row is the outputs from my interface. So it'll be out of, the top row is out of the interface into the console, right? Top row, since this is my live room patch bay panel, I only got 8. Normally, you know, I would have a lot more, but I only got 8 so far. That's why there's only 8 connected in on this one right here. Out of the live room into the console. That's the thought process. Okay, so that's how it's hooked up. And so let me talk about some more of the patch bay. So I'm gonna come over here. So next, I normally have it marked, but I got it on my some notes right here to I mark it on the patch bay. This fourth row patch bay would be my row of preamps. Like for example, even though I have these preamps here, these came after first, right? Well, they didn't. They just kind of, I got to put them in a rack. But one, I got Avalon, my Avalon 737 here was in the rack. So that Avalon, the output is here, the input is here. So if I want to use this Avalon preamp here, like I can turn it on, hit the on switch. There you go, turned it on. So now, because the outputs are connected to the patch bay, all I gotta do is patch in something. Like if I wanted to patch in from my live room, like if I was gonna patch in a microphone, like this microphone here on the stand. I don't know how that got stuck to that. I can run the microphone cable. It's gonna run from there to the cable to the input, the out, then it's going to come to this patch panel. So I would run a patch cable, an output out of here from my live room into input here to go into the Avalon preamp. Then I would run a return cable from here and continue into the console. I can do that way, and then of course my direct outs are already patched into my Avalon, my Antelope, so the signal would see it. I would see that channel 1, patch it into channel 1 here, channel 1. So then I can monitor, I can excuse me, I had to sneeze. I can do zero latency, and I can bring up this fade up here, and I would hear the microphone in the channel. So if I had a signal, I would see it here. The direct out would go from the direct out directly into the interface to record the signal into my DAW. So all my preamps here, including these preamps, including my universal audio, all those are wired in. Now my Joe Meets aren't wired in yet, but they will be. But this one, like my universal audio 610 is wired in. It's got here, so you got the input and out, you can see the back. That's routed to the patch bay. So I can choose whatever external preamp. If I don't want to use the preamp, don't want to use these preamps on the consoles channel, I can use these external preamps and go directly into the interface to record. So it's a choice. So that row is my row of preamps. This next row is my row of EQs, like the Orban EQ. I got it marked Orban which would be this Orban right here. The Ultra Q, which are these Ultra Qs, and another Orban. So I got them marked. So they are marked. That's my road. Then of course, I still have to put other things like my Clark Technic 2As. I got them marked here. So my Clark Technic 2As are there. So I had to find spots on the patch bay for this gear. This next row right here would be all of my compressors. Well, not all of them, but pretty much most of them. All my compressors are here. So like for example, on my master bus, which these is my inserts for all my master bus and all my bus channels. Like my master bus insert, auxiliary 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are here. So if I play something on my master bus, I have routed in here. So if I play this track coming, since it's on my master bus, coming from that, you can see that now. You can see there is signal. So that's and I can patch that in case I want to patch something else on. Let's say I want to make a drum bus and send it to like buses 1 and 2 here. I can patch in. So let's say I want to send a group of channels here, and I assign them to buses 1 and 2 or whatever. I can patch in a piece of gear and put it on whatever compressor I want to use. It's that easy. Like I think I got some patch cable, long patch. Let me see. I'm redoing my patch cables, but let me see. I'll try to do this for demonstration purposes. So I'm going to so let's say for bus, let's say that which is on these 2 channels here for that we were just listening to. I'm going to run the output of that bus. I'm going to send into this so the output of that bus, which is here, is going to go into, I'm going to put it into that, I'm going to use this compressor here, this Alesis. So I'm going to route in, let me grab another patch cable. And I'm going to, we're going to go, out of the bus channel into the compressor, which is the bottom. Out, ends on the bottom, outs on the top. So we're coming out of the bus compressor, routing it out into, which is the bottom, into the compressor. But now for me to hear the compressor, I need to complete the signal flow by adding, I'm gonna grab that, fell behind I gotta grab that cable. So now I'm going to run the output from that compressor, the output, and I'm going to connect it in, out of the, so we're coming, let me show I'm doing that right. Out of the compressor. Now we're running out of that compressor back into that bus channel. So I got to get one more cable. So some of these are short, some of these are long. I'm trying to get a long enough I'm sorting all my patch cables, so just bear with me. Okay, there we go. Make sure it's long enough. Okay, so now I am going to run the output for that other channel. So now that's on that. So now I'm going to come in here and make sure these are assigned to pre, because I don't want my channel to affect my output to my unit. So I got them on pre. So auxiliaries. So now I'm going to assign this to bus 1 and 2. So I'm going to hit bus 1 and 2. That's assigned to bus. This channel's now assigned to buses 1 and 2. So now I'm going to come over here and play the track again. All right, the track is playing. Okay. So now we got signal. And there's signal at the compressor. So that's how you would patch in your gear. You can patch in any gear. You can patch it through a bus, the master bus, or run an output. Like I can take that same compressor. Let's say on that channel, let's say, or whatever outputs from the console, I could run, for example, well, anything that I want to route, I can patch it in, because 90+% of this gear is running is all connected to the patch bay. So that's kind of like a general overview of how everything's hooked up. That's a general overview. So that's kind of how you would do it. You just patch in, and I know some people that may not work that way, you know, using the patch bay and the console and outboard gear. They may think the patch cable is maybe considered, but actually it's hard to explain why we kind of like working this way. I like working this way because unlike at the console and outboard gear, unlike a plug-in where you can pull the plug in, then a lot of times you got to move the plug-in out the way to see other things. So a lot of times you open the plug-in, do it where you want to, you close the window. A lot of times I like to be at the console like I am, and then I like being able to turn around and look at a piece of gear working, and I like to go over to that piece of gear and make the adjustments, physically make the adjustments without using my mouse. I want to actually physically touch it. That's the reason why. Now, like I said, excuse my patch. Like I said, I'm sorting through all my patch cables. But that's the general idea of how things are hooked up and how you can patch in. Because, oh yeah, like I said, this is I consider this my live room. And you can look at a patch bay and you can see how things are marked to let you know how things are, what you're going to hook up. It'll be marked. But because I know where everything is, that's why not everything is marked. So that would be my returns from my interface to my console. This will be my inputs to my interface. This will be all my preamps, pretty much all my EQs, all my compressors. This one right here is my ADATs, all 24 of my ADATs, which is my ADAT machine right here. Then my hard disk recorder here is this row. This is my row of hard disk recorder. And then I have, this one's going to be more inserts, and these are all inserts for channels and buses. And then there's, of course, more, usually I would, right now my effects and all that are run on the console, but I'm going to run it to a patch bay, and then you can patch in all your effects. Like, so that's how you would do that too. You would patch in all your effects. But right now, let me turn on the phantom power off. That's not supposed to be, anyhow. So that's generally That's the general hookup. I hope you enjoyed the video on that, and pretty much how this hooked up. Thanks for watching. Y'all have a great one.